Hey guys, it's Michael from cultureshockcollectibles.com, and today we are checking out what I feel is probably the breakout line of 2020. It is, of course, the DC Multiverse 7-inch figures by McFarlane Toys. And, you know, at the start of the year, we sort of started to see this wave of McFarlane DC Multiverse figures be released here in Australia. We saw, of course, the animated series Batman and animated Superman, and quite a lot of the figures from the DC 1000 comic books be released. And, you know, I thought the figures were pretty cool. Loved the animated series figure and the Superman animated series figure. But, you know, in my opinion, they were just another, you know, creation of the animated figures in a slightly bigger scale. It wasn't until we started to see these awesome lines here in front of us be released that I thought McFarlane is definitely starting to reach their full potential with this line. And I've got to admit, since the White Knight line and, of course, the Dark Knight's Metal line was released, I have to say I am super impressed, McFarlane. I take my hat off to you. You guys are absolutely kicking goals with this line, and I can't wait to see the rest of the releases that, of course, have been coming up for pre-order, that are due for release later in the year and obviously early into next year as well. So really enjoying this line. I wasn't going to collect the McFarlane DC Multiverse line, but I am now hooked and have decided to get high off my own supply and start collecting them myself. Was really surprised last week when we got a wave of the Arkham Batman and Joker in. We got a couple of cases of those restocked. I know they've been out for quite a while now, but we got another case of those in, and to my surprise, there was actually the chase figures. The first time around when we got these, they weren't in the cases. So I know McFarlane did announce that they were doing the bronze Batman and Joker. So it was a bit of a surprise to me when opening that case that these two bad boys were in there. Amazing looking figures. I do think the bronze ones actually look better than the normal figures, but hey, that's my opinion. What we're going to do today is take a bit of a closer look at some of my favorite releases from the Multiverse range so far. So let's dive in. Alright, so I want to kick things off with the Batman White Knight releases. This wave included, of course, Batman and the Joker, Jack Napier, from the White Knight story arc of DC Comics. And the wave also included Azrael. However, that bad boy sold out in minutes. He's not even on the back here. But these figures are absolutely stunning. We've got obviously some comic art from the graphic novel, and of course a few others that are in the DC Multiverse line. The figure itself, the Joker figure, comes of course with the Joker in the Gotham police department vest, the bulletproof vest, tactical vest, whatever you want to call it. Comes with that huge revolver gun, and of course the Jack Napier head sculpt, which is looking quite sadistic. A really awesome figure and a great representation from the actual comic book. And of course, just like all the DC Multiverse figures, it comes of course with the character card and artwork there as well. The Batman figure from White Knight, also in that range, comes of course with the Batarang and a few different sort of batty accessories. Absolutely love this suit. It's pretty wicked. As you can see, a bit of a closer look at the figure. And of course, you've got the artwork at the back as well. So as I mentioned, Azrael did come in this line, and that figure was super impressive. We sold out of that on cultureshockcollectibles.com in minutes, and unfortunately all suppliers in Australia have sold out of that figure, so I wasn't able to get high off my own supply on that one and keep one, but I'm absolutely kicking myself, so I may need to source one of those elsewhere. But this is a really cool line, and looking forward to sort of busting these guys out of their plastic prisons and taking a closer look at the figures as well. Alright, so we've busted open the Batman White Knight figure from the box and got him on display. What I did notice about this figure is those legs are pretty narrow towards the bottom, so posing this or getting it to stand up maybe without the base is going to be a little bit hard. You will find that the back is very heavy due to the bulkiness of obviously the Batman's chest area and that huge cape as well. So that's just something to note, but definitely an awesome figure. We'll take a bit of a closer look at it. You've of course got some amazing articulation in the McFarlane figures. And you'll see that there's just so many different joints, even sort of the front of the toe. You've got your joint in the ankle, and there's a couple of joints as well, of course, through the knees and the kneecap areas. You've of course got that, you know, torso movement as well in the figure, and some really big joints there in the arm as well. You won't get out too much because of the cape on this one, but overall pretty cool articulation. And of course the sculpting is awesome as well. Cape is not chunky, thick plastic. It is very thin, which is cool because I just hate when they put these heavy, chunky capes on them instead of material. But this one is actually pretty cool. Overall, a really awesome looking figure. My only sort of beef with it was, of course, just the narrowness of the feet, making it a little bit hard to sort of pose and stand up. I mean, if we just try and stand him up there on the thing, well, there you go, done it first pop. But yeah, well, there you go. But yeah, tried to do it originally and it just wasn't the easiest to stand up. But they do all come with bases as well as some accessories there, and a closer look for you guys. There is the base and of course the collector card that they come with. So the next wave I want to have a chat about here is of course the Dark Knight's metal line. This one has literally just landed in Australia last week and arrived to us earlier this week. And this line has been highly anticipated. I believe stock was really scarce here in Australia. We managed to get our hands on a few cases, but we didn't actually put these up for pre-order on our website, unlike the other waves, just because they were super scarce and literally sold out with suppliers here in Australia within minutes. So to ensure that we could fulfill all our pre-orders, we decided not to put them online and just wait for them to be released, and heaps of our awesome customers have gotten their hands on these now, and I'm sure they're just as impressed as we are. So this wave actually came with 4 figures. We pre-sold out of Dawnbreaker, so I don't have that on hand at the moment to show you guys, but the 3 that I do have here are, of course, the Earth 1 Devastator Batman. This thing is an absolute beast, and he's really heavy as well. So, amazing looking figure, great detail in the sculpt and the body, and through to the clothing. And of course, as a standard, you get that awesome artwork, which is featured on the card, and of course the others in the DC Multiverse series, so you can collect them all. But this figure, yeah, it comes of course with the stand, no other real accessories but the stand and that collector card. The other one which has been quite popular in this wave is of course the Earth 44 Batman, and that is the Murder Machine figure. Another amazing looking figure. Murder Machine, of course, becoming more and more popular, we're finding, even with the pop vinyls and other merchandise. Another amazing head sculpt there on this figure, and of course the color that has gone into that suit is super vibrant as well. The camera probably doesn't show it all that well, but this is sort of like a fluoro pinky orange, and so are the 2 sections on the armor. That's probably more of an accurate show of the color that's actually in the armor. As you can see, that artwork from Dark Knight's metal. And the other thing this sort of figure line's gotten me, I think, back into is some of the DC comics. Like, I've gone out and ordered Dark Knight's Metal, White Knight, and a few other awesome Batman comics. Last Night on Earth is another one, just because I want to see exactly where these figures have come from. For a long time, I guess I haven't really read much DC comics, more Marvel stuff, but the figure line is so impressive that I now want to jump back in. The other, of course, figure that's in this wave is the Grim Knight. Now, this has probably been the most hardest and scarce figure in the whole of this wave. To give you guys an idea, this figure only comes in a quantity of 1 in a case, where you get a couple of each of the other figures. So you can understand that with a ratio of 1 in 6 in a case, that is why the Grim Knight has been so hard to come by here in Australia, and I'm sure around the rest of the world. So an amazing figure. So if you can get your hands on it, it's probably my pick of the whole wave. I know the Devastator Batman is pretty awesome and stunning in size and all that, but this figure, just pretty cool with all the arsenal it comes with, and a great representation of course, the comic book character. And you can see that awesome artwork at the back. We're going to crack this one open because I know everyone wants to have a closer look. I know we're not cracking them all open right now, but we are definitely going to crack this one open and get him free of his plastic prison and take a closer look. Alright, so we've taken the Grim Knight out of the box and taking a closer look at the figure itself. I know I mentioned with the White Knight Batman figure, it was a little bit hard to stand up and pose and stuff like that, just because of the real thin legs that it has on it. Obviously, that's true to the character in the comics. However, this figure is very easy to stand up, and the actual stand probably isn't needed. The figure itself obviously comes with a few accessories. It's got a bit of arsenal. It's got the machine gun, the grenade launcher, and I haven't ripped this one out, but this is just a fixed sort of set of arsenal that will sit on the Grim Knight's back. You've got, of course, that awesome artwork on the comic book from the comic book on the card, and of course the base that all these multiverse figures come with. So these guns, I know some people were thinking, are they separate? Are they just a fixed piece? You can see that it does have a little peg there that will help it all sit into the back of the actual figure, into that area right there. So having a closer look, awesome head sculpt, probably a little bit of glue or resin maybe on the head of that, but oh well. Really cool tactical vest. You've got the gauntlets, and of course those awesome pants and knee guards. So a really cool figure. So you can see why this one's super popular amongst collectors, and of course that huge bat symbol there as well. So I've popped a couple of the weapons in hand, that grenade launcher and the machine gun, and just sort of moving the limbs and the joints on these. Unlike NECA figures where I absolutely shit myself when I even move one of the arms or the joint might snap, this feels really solid. The joints move really easily. You don't need to use sort of hot water to, help melt the joints a little bit so that you can move them. They are just a really well put together figure, from what I can tell straight up. So really impressive figure. Definitely my favorite out of the Dark Knight's Metal range that was released. So again, with this figure, the articulation on, I think, pretty much all the multiverse figures is really awesome. You of course have your double joints there in the elbows, and the knees as well seem to have a double sort of jointed peg there, as you can see. So that's really awesome. So you can do both. And as I mentioned, they don't feel really sort of too stiff. I know that probably was maybe one of the more stiffer joints, but they don't feel like they're going to snap in your hands, basically. So that's definitely a plus. And of course, the articulation in the arms is really good, and the head, a basic sort of movement. This sort of caftan looking thing that he's got around his neck will probably halt that a little bit. Definitely my favorite from this wave, and probably one of my favorite releases so far in the DC Multiverse line. Just quickly for my inbox collectors out there, or people who do want to obviously keep the box in good condition to repackage or for whatever purpose, don't cut these. These little things here, unlike the elastic ones that snap in a heartbeat, you can actually thread these straight back through. So if you want to keep your figure, you know, somewhat preserved and looking good, you can just pop that back on. And really the only way I open these figures is just by cutting the bottom seal. I don't touch the top because there's about 3 of those circle things. So yeah, you can definitely put these back. It's somewhat of a collector friendly package. So the last figure that I want to have a closer in-depth look at is, of course, the Earth 1 Devastator Batman. As I mentioned to you, this figure is heavy as. Usually you find that the plastic casing is not even attached to the cardboard, but this is actually taped on out of the factory. There are so many different cables and stuff holding this thing in that I'm not going to even try and get it out just yet. We can have a pretty darn good look at it like this. The jaw area is not articulated, so you can't close or open this, I don't believe. Or can you? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you actually can. There is a peg on that, so that is pretty stiff, so maybe be careful when doing that one. But overall, the texture and the design of this figure is awesome. There's going to be some minor sort of articulation through the torso area in the 2 elbow joints, the knees, and of course the ankles, like most of the other McFarlane figures. This thing is pretty beastly, so this is going to display really, really well. I actually can't wait to break it completely out. But overall, a really cool figure. Definitely a second favorite in this wave. On the box, of course, you get that artwork that'll be on the collector card inside, which shows the Devastator Batman there, probably with Gotham in the background from Dark Knight's Metal. Really, really enjoying the figures from this wave. I think they are super accurate to the comics, and they just display and look awesome. So really cool. So I know I mentioned earlier that the sort of more first releases from the first waves were, of course, you know, that animated series Superman and animated series Batman figure as well. Couldn't go past getting these. They were super awesome, and definitely had to have them. There were a hell of a lot of other figures released around the same time. But yeah, these were sort of ones that I thought, yeah, look, I have to have them just because I liked the animated series and the animated looks. But it wasn't sort of the figures that got me into wanting to collect the Multiverse line or some of the Multiverse line. I think it was definitely the later releases, but these were really cool. A really cool way for McFarlane to launch the DC Multiverse line. So let's talk variants or chase figures that a lot of figure companies are now doing, and the McFarlane DC Multiverse line is no exception. We've seen McFarlane, you know, tease these bronze statue-like figures from the waves, and there was going to be some in certain waves. This figure, of course, is the Arkham Asylum Joker, and I have to say, I love the bronze figures. I think this actually looks better than the Arkham Asylum figure, you know, with the purple and all that. I think it just looks pretty cool. It's a really cool variant and a really cool figure to have. It brings out all the texture in, of course, not only the head sculpt, but the jacket and the pants and obviously all the accessories. Being that bronzy sort of color, you really get to see all the textures that are within the figure. So how rare are these sort of figures that are called chase figures or, you know, variant figures? They come in a ratio of 1 in 6. So 6 standard Joker figures to 1 chase variant. So very much like Funko does with their pop vinyls. So it does make them a little bit rarer. It does make them a little bit harder. I have seen these sort of going on eBay for, you know, over $100 now. particularly in the US, where I think it's a lot harder to even find one of these out in the wild on a shelf at a Walmart or a Target or whatever store may have the exclusive rights to them. But yeah, in Australia, you will find some websites like to put these on their sites for sale. We like to throw variants into orders at random, as we like to do with Funko Pops. Just think that's a really cool way to, make it a bit of a mystery and see if you can sort of try your luck to get one of these instead of it just being, no, we're just going to sell them to the highest bidder. So I think that's the way to do it when it comes to variants and chases. And of course, the other chase figure within that Arkham Asylum range was the Batman figure. Another one that I think just looks awesome in that bronze color. Just brings out absolutely every minor detail in that amazing suit from the Arkham Asylum video games that were so popular when they were released. So really amazing figure. Like I said, I think these variants just look so cool, and I do like them more than just the standard version. That is, of course, the standard suit that you can get as well. Once again, this comes in a ratio of 1:6, so it is a bit of a rarer one. Overall, yeah, amazing line, amazing figure, and I can't wait to see what other figures they bring out in that range as well. The hunt for the chase is, I guess, part of the fun. It's a bit annoying for some collectors, and you do find a lot of times people are just inflating the crap out of the price on eBay, so that can be quite annoying. But if you do see a chase variant out there, or you're lucky enough to snag one when you order a standard version on Culture Shock Collectibles, yeah, I think it's well worth having in the collection, and I'll definitely be displaying mine in my personal collection. Alright, so that about wraps it up for our closer look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse 7-inch figures. Just a few that have been released here in Australia recently, and some that were obviously released not so long ago. But this line is super impressive, and for me it is the front runner for the figure line of the year. I think McFarlane are definitely kicking goals with this. I know they do some great work with, other figure ranges like Walking Dead and Spawn, and even those Spawn figures that have been released recently are absolutely stunning. So I think McFarlane, you are onto something awesome here, mate. And I cannot wait to see what else is going to be released. We, of course, have the full range of upcoming figures available right now for pre-order on cultureshockcollectibles.com. They have been probably one of the biggest lines for us this year on pre-order, so be sure to get onto cultureshockcollectibles.com, jump into the McFarlane Toys range or the Batman range, and you'll see them all there. There are some amazing figures coming up over the next few months and into early next year, so make sure you pre-order because these bad boys do not last very long. If you like what you're hearing, what you're seeing here on our YouTube channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you as part of the Culture Shock Collectibles family. And until next time, guys, I'll see you in the virtual toy aisle.